Have you ever felt frustrated because no matter how much you explain yourself, people just don't understand? Or maybe you've poured your heart out only to see your words dismissed, twisted, or ignored? In a world that celebrates speaking, proving, reacting, and debating, it's easy to think that silence is a sign of weakness. But today, we're going to explore a profound truth. Silence is not emptiness, it is strength. Sometimes saying nothing communicates more than 1,000 words ever could. It protects your peace, deepens your understanding, and even influences others in ways words often fail to achieve. If you've ever struggled to be heard, to be understood, or to maintain your inner calm in a chaotic world, this message is for you. By the end of this talk, you'll see why your silence might just be your greatest voice. In the modern world, we are surrounded by noise. Phones beep, notifications pop up, emails pile up, and everyone wants to be heard. In this environment, people often mistake silence for weakness. But silence is not weakness. Silence is a sign of inner strength. It's like a tree standing in a storm. The winds may blow, the rain may lash, but the tree doesn't try to fight the storm with noise. It stands quietly, rooted in its strength, bending only when necessary, and ultimately enduring everything with grace. Consider the times when you've been criticized, insulted, or misunderstood. In those moments, the instinctive reaction is to respond, to defend yourself, to prove your point. But what if instead you paused? What if you allowed silence to be your response? When you don't react impulsively, people notice. They realize that your peace is more important to you than their judgment. That in itself communicates more power than any rebuttal ever could. Silence demonstrates that you are grounded, that your sense of self is not determined by external opinions. Strength is often mistaken for aggression, but true strength lies in restraint. When you resist the urge to constantly defend, explain, or argue, you are showing the world a deeper form of power, a power that doesn't need validation from others. Your silence becomes your shield, protecting your energy, preserving your dignity, and maintaining your peace. Silence is not just about withholding words, it is about observing and reflecting. Think of silence as a mirror, showing you the reality that words often obscure. When you remain quiet in a conversation, when you listen more than you speak, you begin to notice details that were invisible before. People reveal themselves through their own words. They cannot hide their intentions, emotions, or true character when they are talking. And in the quiet, you begin to see patterns. You see who respects you, who misunderstands you, and who truly values your presence. One of life's paradoxes is that people often talk to avoid silence. But silence often communicates the deepest truths. When you are calm and quiet, others are forced to confront themselves. Their words, their tone, their energy all reflect back at them. And sometimes that reflection is more enlightening than any advice you could give. Think of a still lake. When the water is turbulent, you cannot see clearly, but when the lake is calm, it reflects the sky perfectly. Similarly, your silence creates clarity in relationships. It allows others to see themselves and see the reality of the situation without your interference or commentary. Silence teaches patience, it teaches empathy, it teaches understanding. And in a world obsessed with constant expression, those who master the art of quiet observation gain wisdom that words alone cannot provide. Silence is not merely a reaction to the world, it is a profound tool to understand it. Words can mislead, emotions can cloud judgment, and constant noise can drown the voice of reason. But in the quiet, when the mind is free from distraction, clarity begins to emerge naturally. It is in these moments of stillness that we gain insight into what truly matters, what deserves our energy, and what is trivial or fleeting. Have you ever noticed that your most meaningful insights often come when you're alone, away from the chaos of the world? Perhaps it is during a solitary walk in the early hours of the morning, or in a quiet room with no interruptions. In those moments, you are not performing, explaining, or reacting. You are simply observing, reflecting, and listening. The mind, when freed from the constant pressure to respond, begins to untangle the knots of confusion and overwhelm. Silence allows you to hear your own heart. In the busyness of life, our thoughts are often dominated by other people's expectations, criticisms, and judgments. The voices of others can be so loud that we lose touch with our own inner guidance. When you pause and embrace silence, you reconnect with yourself. You separate your authentic voice from the noise around you, allowing your true priorities, values, and desires to emerge with clarity. It is in silence that the mind becomes a mirror, reflecting the reality of situations and relationships as they truly are, not as filtered through emotion or assumption. You begin to discern which conflicts are worth your energy and which are best left untouched. You recognize unnecessary arguments, ego battles, and distractions that only drain your focus. Imagine a chef preparing a delicate dish. They do not rush, and they do not overload the pan with too many ingredients. Instead, they pause, taste, and adjust with care. Silence is like that pause in life. It allows your decisions to be measured, your actions to be deliberate, and your experiences to be fully savored. It is in these quiet intervals that wisdom grows, insight deepens, and clarity transforms confusion into understanding. By embracing silence as a tool for clarity, we do not merely avoid chaos, we cultivate a mind capable of seeing life with balance, perspective, and calmness. Silence, in essence, is the lens through which wisdom focuses. Perhaps the most surprising aspect of silence is that it communicates more than words ever could. In relationships, silence often carries a depth and weight that explanations fail to reach. A calm, composed presence can express love, respect, understanding, or even gentle disapproval without creating conflict or resentment. It conveys a quiet authority that does not demand attention but naturally earns it. Consider a parent with a child who has made a mistake. Instead of immediately scolding or lecturing, the parent quietly observes, allowing the child to reflect on their actions. The child often learns far more from this calm, attentive presence than from a barrage of words. Similarly, in friendships, when a friend chooses not to react in anger or frustration, but instead allows the situation to settle, their silence conveys care, empathy, and wisdom far more powerfully than any explanation or argument could. Silence, in these moments, becomes a language of its own, subtle, profound, and transformative. Silence can express empathy, forgiveness, or even authority without a single spoken sentence. People often underestimate the power of not responding, thinking that action or words are always required. Yet, sometimes it is precisely the absence of reaction that resonates most strongly. When you remain silent in the face of provocation, it communicates that you are centered, unshaken, and in control of your emotions. It sends a message that your peace of mind is more valuable than someone else's opinions or attempts to manipulate you. For instance, imagine someone trying to provoke you during a heated argument. The immediate instinct is to respond, to justify yourself, or to assert your position. But choosing silence in that moment demonstrates a quiet strength. It signals that you are unaffected, that their words cannot disturb your inner calm. Over time, this type of measured silence can transform tense interactions, de-escalate conflict, and earn the respect of those around you. It becomes a powerful tool, reminding others that true communication is not always about speaking, it is often about the presence, poise, and restraint we bring to every interaction. Silence, when used intentionally, speaks volumes far beyond what words alone could ever achieve. Let me share a story. There was a man who faced constant criticism at work. Every idea he proposed was questioned, every effort scrutinized. At first, he argued, defended, and tried to explain himself, but nothing worked. He grew frustrated. Then one day, he decided to stop responding immediately. He paused, observed, and chose his battles carefully. Over time, people noticed. They realized he wasn't weak or passive. He was composed, confident, and deliberate. His silence spoke louder than any defense could. And ironically, his ideas began to be respected more than before. Another example comes from relationships. A couple argued constantly over trivial issues. One partner decided to stop reacting impulsively and embrace silence as a tool. They listened more, observed more, and only spoke when it truly mattered. Over time, the dynamic changed. Arguments decreased, understanding grew, and the relationship became stronger. Silence, in this case, became the bridge that words alone could not build. Pause before reacting, before responding to criticism or conflict. Take a breath. Give yourself the gift of time. Observe more, speak less. Focus on listening, understanding, and absorbing rather than explaining. Embrace reflection. Spend time alone in quiet reflection. Understand your own thoughts before engaging with the world. Communicate with presence. Sometimes simply being calm, composed, and attentive communicates more than words ever could. Remember, silence is not avoidance, it is awareness. It is not weakness, it is strength. It is not emptiness, it is a reservoir of power, clarity, and wisdom. In life, we often chase words, explanations, and validation. We speak to be heard, to be recognized, and to prove ourselves. But true power lies in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Your silence can be a shield, a mirror, a tool, and a language of its own. It can protect your peace, illuminate the truth, and influence others profoundly. The next time you feel the urge to respond impulsively, pause, embrace the quiet, let your silence speak. You might just discover that in saying nothing, you are actually saying everything.